Welcome to Praxi Network webinar dedicated to multi-actor approach. This webinar is organized by Praxi Network, the technology transfer unit of Foundation for Research and Technology Greece, as national contact point and also coordinator of Enterprise Europe Network. We are supported by the General Secretariat for Research and Innovation, and we have the privilege to have two speakers from the European Commission. My name is Evropi-Sofia. I'm a national contact point for Cluster 6 and coordinator of Care for Bio, the network of all Cluster 6 NCPs. Together with Ioannis Andronikidis, NCP Formations, my colleague, we will be your coordinators. This webinar aims to support the development of high-quality proposals under the multi-actor approach by providing practical guidance, real project examples, access to free tools and services, and the actual reason aligned with the core value of multi-actor approach, of course, contributing to impactful and user-oriented research and innovation outcomes. Research and innovation for Europeans makes sense if it promotes co-creation, knowledge exchange, and demand-driven innovation, ensuring that research results are relevant, applicable, and widely adopted. So today we hope to give you insights how to effectively design proposals and integrate the active involvement of all your key stakeholders, which can be researchers, practitioners, farmers, and users, from the early design of a proposal to the project implementation. So some housekeeping rules for today. This webinar recorded will be uploaded online in the network YouTube channel. Your microphones and cameras should be closed during all webinar, and you can use the chatbot for questions and inquiries, but also the Slido that you can see in the chat. We will have a break in the middle of the webinar to grab a coffee, and our speakers will answer to your questions in two dedicated Q&A sessions in the middle and at the end of the webinar. And also the presentations will be sent to you with a brief survey after the end of the webinar. It is very important to have some insights from you and your experience from this event. So now I want to give the floor to Dr. Loukas Gourgiotis. He's the new head of International Scientific and Technological Cooperation Directorate in the Greek General Secretariat for Research and Innovation, which is actually the secretariat responsible for planning and coordination, the implementation of policy, research, and technological development and innovation. Hence, responsible for framework programs. So, Mr. Loukas Gourgiotis, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, dear Evropi. Good morning from my side, and welcome to today's webinars on Cluster 6 of Horizon Europe, focusing on food, bioeconomy, natural resources, agriculture, and environment. As already know, General Secretariat for Research and Innovation participates actively in many actions of the Horizon program. The topics addressed under this cluster are crucial and high on our agenda, as they directly relate to sustainability, food security, and environmental resilience in Europe. A key element is the multi-actor approach, which ensures the research and innovation are co-created with researchers, practitioners, and end users, leading to practical and widely adopted results. Today's sessions will provide insights into funding opportunities, including open calls, Greek participation, and the EU missions, a soil deal for Europe, along with hands-on guidance, tools, and real project examples to help design strong and impactful proposals. Thank you for being with us, and I wish you a productive webinar. From my side, I need to leave early in 5 minutes because I need to jump in to another meeting, so I will not follow everything.
Thank you very much for the introduction and the support of Secretariat in this webinar, Mr. Gourgiotis. Our results-driven collaboration is very important to support this all the Greek applicants. So Praxis is very lucky to have your support all these years. Of course, you can leave, and thank you for being here. Now I will give the floor to Mr. Dr. Antonios Gypakis. He's the Head of Research and Innovation Policy Planning and Programming Directorate, and also Head of the Department for Policy Planning and Programming. Today he's wearing the hat of National Representative in Cluster 6, and he will present the powerful Greek participation in the Cluster 6. Mr. Gypakis?
So, good morning, everyone. I think Evropi has already told about my position here in the General Secretariat for Research and Innovation. I'm the head of the Planning and Programming for Research and Innovation Directorate, and also the National Delegate to Cluster 6 Europe. Today, as a part of this Greek webinar, I would like to present an overview of our Greek participation in Cluster 6. Our presentation today is divided in 4 main sections. First, we will look at the general Greek participation in the Horizon Europe framework. Secondly, we will provide an overview of our performance specifically within Cluster 6 projects. Third, we will break down those Cluster 6 projects by action type and organization. And finally, I try to give you briefly a touch upon funding of Greek organization across the destinations 1 to 7. In this slide, we can start with a big picture. As of April 2026, Horizon Europe has reached a net EU contribution of over 52 billion across nearly 2,000 signed grants. The Greece footprint is significant. We have secured approximately 1.93 billion in net EU contributions. This represents 3.61% of the total Horizon Europe budget. A very strong performance for our country, I think. Furthermore, we have over 1,000 unique participants involved in more than 5 participations. In this slide, you can see our rank. To put this into perspective, Greece is currently ranked 7th among member states in terms of the number of projects, with a total of 5,288 projects. This high ranking demonstrates the competitiveness and high quality of our research and innovation ecosystem on a European scale. Let us see now what is happening in our Greek participant Cluster 6 projects. To put this into perspective, Greece is currently ranked 7th among member states in terms of the number of projects. Excuse me. Moving specifically to Cluster 6, which covers food, bioeconomy, natural resources, and environment, Greece secured 284.7 million in net EU contribution. This accounts for 0.46% of the total Horizon Europe budget, but a substantial 2.6% share of Cluster 6 specific budget. We currently have 369 projects under this cluster with 273 unique Greek participants. In terms of Cluster 6 rankings, Greece holds the 12th position for the number of projects. Notably, we are leading as coordinators in 21 of these projects, which is a vital indicator of our leadership in these scientific fields. In terms of total budget secured with Cluster 6, we rank 13th. We rank 13th. To delve deeper into the available data, let's look at the nature of these projects. Our participation is diverse across various types of actions. Nearly half of our involvement is concentrated in Horizon Research and Innovation actions, RIAs, accounting for 48%, followed by Horizon Innovation actions, IAS, at 29%. The remaining share is distributed among Horizon Coordination Support Actions, CSAs, Horizon Joint Undertaking Innovation Actions, JU-IAS, and Horizon Co-Fund and other instruments, each representing smaller but meaningful proportions. Turning in the key scientific domains in which Greek entities demonstrate, I think, a strong performance, leadership is observed primarily in the natural sciences and the social sciences, followed by agricultural sciences and engineering and technologies. Here you can see the participation in top keywords in projects. It is the Euro Science VOC concept, reveals that governance, agriculture, bioeconomy, and civil society are the most prominent keywords, but other emerging keywords in our portfolio include pollution, forestry, fisheries. This thematic spread position as well for the multi-actor approach required in the 2026 calls. Now let's comment on the participation by organization type. In that regard, private for-profit entities, excluding higher or secondary education establishments, with 37%, and higher or secondary education establishment with 31% accounts for the majority of the Greek participation. In this framework, the top 13 Greek players in Cluster 6 regarding to net EU contribution are shown in this slide and includes research institutions, as you can see, higher education institutions, of course, enterprises. By the final part of my presentation, I try to give you some information about the participation of the Greek organizations and the funding by destinations 1 to 7. Here you can see the annual funding for Greek organization by the destinations. We have every year good funding for our organization, as you can see here. By destination 1, by diversity and ecosystem services, you can see here the top layers that they are successful by application of projects by destination 1. The expected impact is here putting biodiversity on a path to recovery and protecting and restoring ecosystems and their services. A net EU contribution of 18 million euros, signed grants 39, participation 66. And of course, you can see here the participation as coordinator in two projects. By destination 2, fair, healthy, and environment-friendly food ecosystem from primary production to consumption. It is known as farm to fork. You can see also here the top players, budget, number of projects that they have, and in total the net EU contribution about 48.5 million euros, signed grants 91, participations 168, and participation as coordinator 11 projects. Destination 3, circular economy and bioeconomy sectors. Expected impact here is target climate neutrality, zero pollution, fair and just circular and bioeconomy transitions, covering safe, integrated circular solutions at territorial and sectoral levels for important material flows and product value chains. Also here the top players, the budget that they have achieved, a number of projects, a net EU contribution of 27.5 million euros, 62 signed grants, 88 participations, of those 8 participation as coordinator. Destination 4, clean environment and zero pollution. Expected impact, target climate neutrality, zero pollution, fair and just circular and bioeconomy transitions, covering safe integrated circular solutions at territorial and sectoral levels on important material flows and product value chains. Top players here, number of projects, also the budget that they have achieved. Net EU contribution of 14.4 million euros, 34 signed grants, 49 participation, of those 4 as coordinator. And destination 5, land, ocean, and water for climate action. Here the expected impact is to set out credible pathways that contribute to climate action on land, including forest land, grassland, cropland, and wetland, as well as on oceans and water. You can see in the table also the top players, the budget, the number of projects that they have achieved, a net contribution of 17.4 million euros, 38 signed grants, 58 participation, of those 3 as a coordinator. The destination 6 is related to resilient, inclusive, healthy, and green rural, coastal, and urban communities. The expected impact of this destination is to set out a credible pathway to achieving resilient, inclusive, just, healthy, and green rural, coastal, and urban communities. A net contribution of 13.8 million euros, 30 signed grants, 41 participations, of those 3 as a coordinator, and the table with the top players here, the achieved budget, and the number of projects. And last but not least, the last destination, destination 7, innovative governance, environmental observation, and digital solutions in support of the Green Deal. The expected impact of the last destination is to set out a credible pathway contributing to innovative governance and sound decision-making on policies for the green transition, a net EU contribution of 54.3 million euros, 80 signed grants, 170 participations, and of those 16 as coordinator. Also top layers here in this table with achieved budget and the numbers of projects. Thank you for your attention. We are here to support your efforts in the upcoming calls. For any specific question regarding planning or participation, please feel free to contact me at the Ministry of Development. I would like also to apologize because I have to represent our Secretary General in another place here in Athens, so I have to leave. But if you have specific questions, please don't hesitate to write me an email. You can see my email here in the last slide. Once again, thank you very much, and congratulations to Praxis Network for organizing this important webinar today. And thank you again.
Thank you, Mr. Gypakis, for this presentation. This is an insightful overview of Greece participation in projects in Cluster 6. It really sets the scene of and the highlights of the strong collaboration of Greece in framework programs, and particularly for collaborative approaches like multi-actor approach. This is evident, for example, in the destination of governance that we have so strong appearance. Yes, you may leave now. Thank you very much. I know that your program is very tight. So thank you again for your participation here. And now we can go on to the next speaker, Ms. Pauline SENTIS from the European Commission. Thank you very much for being here. Ms. Pauline is in the DGRI Green Transitions Unit, and she's a member of the powerful team of NCP correspondents for Cluster 6. All the members of the team, and specifically her, are very kind to support us as NCPs in a national and European level. And her expertise, I think it's going to be very valuable for the participants today. So, Pauline, the floor is yours. You can share your screen now.
So thank you very much, Evropi-Sofia, for this invitation and for organizing this webinar. So my presentation is going to focus on the cause of the work program 26-27 that are currently open and that encompass a multi-actor approach. So I'm going to start by taking a bit of a zoom out and give you the background and overview of the work program 26-27, and then I'm going to show you into detail the relevant cause for today's webinar. So if we take a step back, what is behind the work program 26-27 of Horizon Europe, which is the last work program of Horizon Europe before we move to FP10, is the strategic plan of 25-27, which has set 3 key strategic orientations of the green transition, digital transition, and a more resilient, competitive, inclusive, and democratic Europe. And these strategic orientations are shaping the 6 clusters that compose Horizon Europe, and into also 32 expected impacts. And in particular, in cluster 6, you can see on the graphically here, there are 6 expected impacts that then themselves split into 7 destinations. And what is important to know about this second half of Horizon Europe of 25-27 is that it has set up a new commitment of 10% of Horizon Europe's total budget dedicated to biodiversity, which was not the case for the first half of Horizon Europe. And it complements the existing target of 35% of climate expenditure. So of course, this 10% target for biodiversity is very important for us in cluster 6. It is also great because it's also cross-cutting over the program. So even though cluster 6 is, of course, by far the biggest contributor, the other clusters also have to make some efforts. So as I said, the expected impacts, they translate into the 7 destinations of the work program of cluster 6. So Dr. Gypakis has already been over the destinations. So I can tell you about the expected impacts. So behind the destination 1, biodiversity, so it's important to keep in mind the expected impact of each destination, because it's, of course, what is behind the expected outcomes of each goal. So it's very relevant to always make the link with the bigger context behind each destination. So behind the destination 1, biodiversity, the impact is to put biodiversity on a path to recovery, protecting and restoring ecosystems and their services. Destination 2, that is known under the acronym Farm to Fork, is about ensuring healthy food and nutrition security by making agriculture, fisheries, aquaculture, and food systems sustainable, resilient, inclusive, and within planetary boundaries. And then destination 3 and 4, so respectively circular economy and clean environment. They are the impact behind is on achieving healthy soils and forests, clean air, fresh and marine water, whilst ensuring water resilience and the transition to a clean, competitive, and circular economy and sustainable bioeconomy. Then destination 5 on climate, fostering mitigation of and adaptation to climate change in areas and sectors covered by cluster 6, because of course climate change is very much covered in under other clusters of Horizon Europe. And here it's particularly covered under this destination 5. Then we have the impact on sustainably developing rural, urban, and coastal areas that translated to destination 6 communities. And finally, destination 7, that is a bit the cross-cutting one on innovative governance. So the impact behind is to develop innovative governance models and tools enabling sustainability and resilience. So this is to give you the big picture of the work program. And then just to precise that on top of this strategic plan that was adopted in beginning of 2024, then we had a change of commission by the end of 2024. So that also sort of put another layer on the work program 26-27. Because there were new political priorities that were adopted. And so the one that's the most relevant to cluster 6 is sustaining our quality of life, food security, water, and nature. So a lot of these calls for proposals, they contribute to this political priority. But also, many contribute to a new plan for Europe's sustainable prosperity and competitiveness. And then to a lesser extent, we also have contribution to the political priorities, supporting people, strengthening our societies and our social model, and protecting our democracy, upholding our values. And then we also have a contribution to the latest initiatives so I put some of them as examples here that you are probably aware of: the European Water Resilience Strategy, the Clean Industrial Deal, the Strategy for European Life Sciences, and so on. But all of these political context is always very much detailed in the narratives of the destinations and also in the content of the calls for proposals. And so Just to precise, what is so as I said, the strategic plan 25-27 had already set up new features into the work program, and more specifically in the work program 26-27 there were again some novelties, and in particular, as you know, the new commission has been very keen on simplifying European initiatives, European processes. So this work program encompasses a lot of simplification measures. So as you probably have noticed, when comparing to other like biannual programs, work programs, we have fewer topics in this work program 26-27 with a higher average funding per topic and project. And we have more lump sum funding, and we have also shorter proposal templates. If some of you have already gone into the portal, you may have noticed that the proposal templates are shorter. Then we also have more open topics. There are also horizontal calls. So today I'm only talking about cluster 6, but you can have a look at the horizontal calls as well. Also because just as a heads up, there is going to be an amendment to the work program that's going to be published by October or something like that. And there is a horizontal call on biodiversity. So if some of your work is relevant to some of cluster 6 areas, it might also be relevant to these new calls, which will be open under the biodiversity horizontal call. There is also a bigger focus on strategic autonomy because, of course, the geopolitical context. You will see that some of the calls have restrictions on, for instance, Chinese entities. Then, of course, we are, as cluster 6, as I said, the main contributor to biodiversity investments. However, the overall investments of cluster 6 into the biodiversity expenditure was not, we didn't reach the 10% target. And so that's the reason why we have this amendment with a call entirely dedicated to biodiversity. And so now I'm showing you more graphically how the work program looks like. So we have, you can see the number of topics, the budget. So the destinations are very heterogeneous in terms of size and scope. But then most of the topics are research and innovation actions. And we also have a third of innovation actions, also many coordinated and support actions, and 2 co-funded partnerships, the Sustainable Blue Economy Partnership and the Partnership Agriculture of Data, for a total of 207 expected grants and over 1 billion euro budget. And so now here is the overview of all the call dates of 2026 and 2027 calls under cluster 6. Most of 2026 calls are already, the application date is already passed, unless you are in the second stage of the of a 2 call. I mean, unless you will be admitted to the second stage of a 2-stage call, but except for the call 1 single stage, which has opened only a few days ago and it's closing on the 17th of September. And this call 01, so that's what I'm going to focus on today. And then, of course, there are many more calls that are going to open at the beginning of 2027. And so this call 01 single stage, it contains the destination 1, biodiversity, 3, circular economy and bioeconomy, and 4, clean environment. And it has 20 topics and a budget of 210 million euros. And Now I'm going to finally make the link to the topic of today, which is multi-actor approach. And so under this call, among these 20 topics, 2 topics encourage the use of multi-actor approach, and 4 topics require the use of multi-actor approach. So this is very important. If a topic requires the use of multi-actor approach, there is really a specific instructions to follow, and my colleague Agatha will explain you more about that in the next a bit later during the webinar. So just to set the frame, the topics that encourage the use of multi-actor approach, it is indicated in the scope. And when the topics require the use of multi-actor approach, it is indicated under the eligibility conditions. So you cannot not see it. It's really very, very obvious. And in both cases, there is a short indication on how this multi-actor approach, in particular, which actors to involve, which is a suggestion, not an, it's not meant to be exhaustive. This indication is developed in the scope. And now I'm going to show you precisely which are these 6 topics and how the reference to multi-actor approach is done. So first, under destination 1, we have this topic on boosting agrobiodiversity for food security and sustainable competitiveness. And so under the eligibility criteria, it's indicated, so I've put it in purple on the slide so you can see it on the right-hand side, that the proposals must apply the multi-actor approach. And later in the scope, it's indicated, so the proposal must apply the multi-actor approach, engaging diverse stakeholders, particularly farmers and land managers, to integrate sector-specific knowledge and needs. So that's a good hook for you to know where to start on how you will integrate this multi-actor approach in the call for in the application. Then moving to destination 3, demonstrating and deploying innovative collections, sorting for reuse and repurpose systems for textiles at city or region level. This topic is part of the Circular Cities and Regions initiative. And again, here it is a requirement. It is under the eligibility criteria. It's indicated the proposals must apply the multi-actor approach. Collaboration between retailers, manufacturers, and small repair business and social enterprises is encouraged. Then again, under destination circular, now it's something about food security. Balancing food security, bioeconomy, climate, and biodiversity objectives while unlocking sustainable value chains. And again, here we have a requirement to implement the multi-actor approach under the eligibility criteria. And here the scope indicates that it should be with a consortium based on a balanced mix of actors with complementary knowledge, including farmers, researchers, farm accountants, and businesses. Now a topic on bio-based innovation and in society, supporting the sustainable way of living. And this time, the multi-actor approach is encouraged, so it is only indicated in the scope. It's not an eligibility condition. Multi-actor approach is encouraged. Proposals should involve SMEs as project beneficiaries or external actors, and offer opportunities to newcomers, as well as engage with the civil society stakeholders, NGOs, and consumer organizations. So yeah, here we have really indications of it could be SMEs, NGOs, consumer organization. So it's at the same time, it's quite precise, but it's also very broad and open. It's really an indication. Now, destination 4, zero pollution, bioremediation of Ukraine's ecosystems contaminated by conflicts. Again, here it is not a requirement, it is suggestion. I mean, it is an encouragement. Proposals should involve consortia formed in the spirit of the multi-actor approach. So here there is no indication on which actors. So it's very, very open, but it's encouraged. So it's really something that should be taken into account. And then the last one is another topic under destination zero pollution, developing managed aquifer recharge techniques in a rural context. Eligibility criteria, the proposals must apply the multi-actor approach and ensure adequate involvement of relevant stakeholders, including farmers, land managers, water governance bodies, and local authorities. So I hope this is very clear. I think that the topic drafters we really requested the topic drafters to indicate how the multi-actor approach should or must be done. So I hope that it gives enough indications for you to implement this requirement or this encouragement properly. And just to finish with, in case you have not participated to the info days of this year, the recordings are available, and I really warmly encourage you to watch the sessions of the destinations that you're interested to apply to, and also the session Key to Success, where the colleagues from the agency give advice and guidance on how to make successful proposals. It's a very rich session, and I really encourage you to watch it again if you could not be there. And then on this slide you also have the link to the work program, to the funding and tenders portal, the list of national contact points, but you already know that your national contact point is Evropi-Sofia, so don't hesitate to reach out to her so that she can reach out to us, and that we can exchange information in both ways very, very easily. And then if you have a specific question, I encourage you to reach out to the Research Inquiry Service if you have a specific question on a call for proposal. If you have a more general question, you should ask Evropi-Sofia, but if you have a specific question that is really related to your case, like whatever, I developed that kind of technology, if it's very specific, then it's more useful to send it to it's more relevant to send it to the Research Inquiry Service, because they will answer to you directly, whereas we will rather answer questions in general and publish them as frequently asked questions. So voilà, it's two channels for you to use the two channels that you can use in order to bring your feedback and your questions to us in the commission. And with that, I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pauline, for your comprehensive presentation. Since you were talking about questions, if you have any questions now, it's an opportunity that we have Pauline and her colleague Agata today with us. Thank you for the presentation. It really clarified all the expectations for the upcoming calls and how the multi-actor is embedded, and how Commission's political priorities and impact and destinations are also embedded in a way. It's very important to read all these documents. I encourage the participants to do this, because usually they are focusing on the research, because it is obvious most of them are researchers, but it's important to see what is the case behind. So all these documents is very important to dedicate your proposal in a better way. Thank you very much, Pauline. I don't think we have any questions for now. We will see in the Q&A session. And we can go on now with the next presentation. My colleague and NCP for Missions, Ioannis Andronikidis, will present the participation of Greece in missions, but also relevant calls that are for in the mission soil, which has some way of implementing the multi-actor approach also. So Ioannis, you
Hi,
can share your
everyone.
screen
Yes,
now.
I've shared the screen. Can you see it in
Yes.
full mode? Yep. Okay. So hi, everyone. Good morning from me as well. I'm Ioannis Andronikidis. I'm an NCP for Cluster 2 and EU missions. Today I will be speaking about EU mission soil specifically and the multi-actor approach. I know that later on in the event we will have specific projects that will share their own experience and very interesting documents they've created about the multi-actor approach. So I will start with a run-through, just a mention of its definition and how it's described in the EU missions work program for 2026 and 2027 as well. It's very similar with Cluster 6. To be honest, and I think you'll find many commonalities. And then I'll present specific calls that mention the multi-actor approach as mandatory and some, let's say, practical guidelines as to how to engage those actors. So first, starting with a mention on the EU missions, right? The EU missions are 5. You can see on this slide we have adaptation to climate change, cancer mission, climate and neutral and smart cities, restore our oceans, our ocean and waters, and of course a soil deal for Europe mission, which we will be discussing today. Now, what about the specific requirements? The multi-actor approach is defined as responsible research and innovation. This comes to be defined as through the project results and the project itself, but with the aim to enhance the reliability, the relevance, and most importantly, and this comes to define it as responsible, the societal impact of the project results. In order to achieve this and have responsible research and innovation and the multi-actor approach, projects must ensure that we have a diverse range of stakeholders, targeted, of course, which means that they are based on the project objectives, and that there is genuine and sufficient involvement in the project activities throughout the project life cycle. And I will explain what I mean by that. I've also included here some possible actors. This is mentioned already in the introduction to the mission soil in the work program. We have like farmers, foresters, land managers, owners, local communities, of course, different NGOs, government representatives, to name just a few. But you will see that in each of the calls that I will be presenting today, there is specific mention and examples, if not a guidance, as to what and which end users the projects could or should involve to achieve the objectives. Now, the end users, as I said, should be engaged throughout the full project lifecycle, and this means from idea to impact, from the inception of the project to the planning, to the co-creation of the activities, their implementation, and of course their dissemination, and after that the exploitation of the results, which refers to the completion of the project and to the long-term impact. It matters. Why it matters? It matters because by involving by taking into consideration real user needs and involving meaningfully different actors, which are relevant, of course, to mission soil and to the specific call and proposal objectives, one could get faster acceptance, uptake, and adoption of the new ideas that will be produced, of actual solutions that relate to soil health, for example, and to the innovations. One of the most usual questions is how to engage these actors. Of course, one of the ways to engage these actors in a project is to involve them directly as partners. But you will see that in these calls that I will be presenting today, there is a specific mission to financial support to third parties, abbreviated as FSTP. I will explain through the specific calls what this means and how it is defined. But essentially, let's say that these are like specific amounts of money that can be given to the actors that you would like to involve in the particular project, whether it is like farmers, practitioners, SMEs, local stakeholders, communities, etc., which are not involved in the consortium per se, but which are an essential aspect of the activities and without whom, the project results cannot be reached. On the right hand of this slide, I'm pointing you to an online course that some colleagues from the NCP for Missions project, in which I'm also involved, have developed specifically about financial support to third parties. You can register there. It is an e-learning, let's say, academy with different courses, and more will be developed, and each one will have specific, let's say, thematics and aims, but aiming essentially to the training of both applicants and, of course, us NCPs. I have all those useful links at the end, so I will come back to that. Now, very briefly, I will mention that because I know that the representatives from the projects we have today in the event will describe and refer to this specifically and have developed relevant documents and checklists. Essentially, what should projects cover in terms of the multi-actor approach? And what could function as a checklist, let's say? Of course, the first is the end user relevance. Both the objectives of the project and the activities need to be aligned and address real needs, problems, challenges, and opportunities of those actors, of those end users in the particular contexts, in the countries that are involved in the consortium. And this gets us precisely to the consortium, which has to have a balanced composition. This means having key actors that complement each other in terms of scientific, practical, and other relevant expertise. And this will make sure that we will get to what I mentioned earlier in terms of the faster adoption, for example, and to have results that are ready for real-world application. The next one, like the integration of practical knowledge, comes to be directly tied with the existing practices and the tacit knowledge that actors themselves, the end users, hold. And there should be a knowledge exchange and an active roles of non-scientific actors, of those non-experts essentially, which can drive innovation and scalable solutions. Effective engagement, I think this is obvious in terms of the methods and the relevant expertise that the consortium should have. And this has been already mentioned somehow, like practical, ready to use, and freely accessible knowledge tools and products. So those are the 4 calls that I will be touching upon today. You see that the first 3 ones are mission soil per se, and the 4th one is a joint call between mission soil and mission climate. The first one, you see that it is about leveraging long-term field experiments and has as a name specifically AI-ready decision support systems aimed, of course, for sustainable soil management. The next 2 refer to living labs, specific structures that I will refer to as well, to enhance soil health, on the one hand in Alpine and Atlantic biogeographical regions, and on the other in managed forests and natural, semi-natural lands. And the last one, it's about joint demonstration of solutions for soil resilience to extreme weather events and support food security. So let's start with the first one. As you can see here, first, the expected outcomes of this call. This is an innovation action. You can see that the first thing that is mentioned is AI-powered decision support systems by land managers. So already in the title and in the expected outcomes, it becomes clear what should be developed in the course of this project. There is mention to long-term field experiments. You will see the abbreviation mentioned a lot in the call, which refers to data collection and integration, including other data sets. Those could be like local data sets or developed in other projects, for example. And already you see a collaboration between scientists, policymakers, and land managers for high-quality soil data presented in a comprehensive way and enabling those decision-making and management practices. In the scope, I will just point to you that, and this is a way to read the text. We see that it says like a network of at least 50, as we said, long-term field experiments. You see the term again here. And you see that there is a specific definition. This should definitely be taken into account when preparing the proposal, along with the AI-driven tools to analyze soil health data sets, again, to develop and train open source and or modular AI components. And I'm giving emphasis to that because, as you will see, what is mentioned as important is first the multi-actor approach, and second, the financial support to third parties, specifically for developers of AI-powered apps. Now, I have created a slide such as this one about each call, where you can see that the multi-actor approach is a mandatory requirement. It is mentioned both in the eligibility criteria of the respective calls and in the scope. It says proposals must apply the multi-actor approach, and it comes to define and say that, to clarify, it involves the primary production sector and all relevant actors. Who are those relevant actors? Landowners, farmers, scientists, advisors, local, regional, national, public authorities. You see that there is a specific mention here, as I mentioned earlier, when it comes to who are those relevant actors to be involved, and ensure engagement throughout the different stages of the project development and implementation. Again, the schema, if it helps you to keep it in mind, that I showed to you earlier. Now, we see here that the financial support to third parties it is clarified that it should be used to support third-party developers, specifically about the development or improvement of innovative AI-powered applications. These applications should provide tailored advice to farmers and advisors to the end users, leading to the enhancement of soil management practices and essentially benefit small or smaller scale producers. The maximum amount is 60,000 euros per third party. Moving on to the next call, Here you will see that, as I mentioned earlier in referring to the titles of the calls, that we have a specific geographical area, let's say, regions that are mentioned. This is the first step to creating the consortium about this proposal. The goal, as you see here, and maybe we can compare it with the previous one, it's more capacity building oriented. It refers to participatory, inter and transdisciplinary research and innovation. And the goal is to co-create and co-implement economically viable soil health solutions. On the first hand, how to do this? On the first hand, to monitor in improved ways soil health, and of course make available those data that will be coming out and being updated through the monitoring, and the availability, of course, of practice-oriented knowledge. This presupposes the involvement, the active involvement of the end users, of the actors. And we have also a policy oriented expected outcome, having policymakers being more aware about the local needs and use this knowledge to design and implement more effective policies. So here it also aims to reach policy level. 4 to 5 living labs to be developed in either regions that are mentioned in the call. You see here already the multi-actor approach, which I have to say is already tied to living labs and soil living labs, and also lighthouses. Those are structures under EU mission soil that are directly tied with the multi-actor approach, and they aim for locally adapted solutions. We have referred already to these. You can see the lighthouses as well. Here, the identification of those and the strategies, which of course this ties in to the policy aspect as well. Again, apart from the indicative budget, you can see the multi-actor approach and the financial support to third parties. Again, here, you see that it is a mandatory requirement. You see also a reference to the living labs that should be interdisciplinary, participatory, multi-actor. Essentially, this is the definition of living labs. We've already covered that, and solutions must fit environmental, socioeconomic, cultural context. They should be closely linked to real users' needs, as we mentioned in the beginning. Drivers and pressures like common soil health challenges. In terms of the financial support to third parties, again, we have as a name to support smaller actors' involvement, and we have some examples. The maximum grant-only amount in this case per third party is 6,000 euros again, and here the call also clarifies what kinds of activities can be funded. We have site management or implementation. We have, of course, monitoring, sampling, and data collection. And those, of course, as you can see, are linked to the expected outcomes and the scope to the two previous slides. In this case, events, knowledge exchange, capacity building, demonstration and awareness, of course, equipment that is relevant to achieving the expected outcomes, and compensation for loss of production. And I think this is important to mention as well as an activity that can be funded. The third call, again, regarding the creation of living labs, but in this case in managed forests and natural, semi-natural lands, again, a research and innovation action. You see that, again, we have capacities. It's very close to the previous call in terms of economically viable soil health solutions, tailored, of course, to the respective countries, monitoring activity again, and the data. You see that those are the same as the previous one. Yes, I won't refer to that precisely and stay longer because it's very similar. But here I want to point both to the similarities, of course, the mandatory requirement. You see the living labs. You see some types of activities that can be carried out in the project. You see that the focus, of course, relates to what is already mentioned in the title, and some solutions, and of course to address common and relevant soil health drivers pressures, as I mentioned earlier. In this case, I've also included a useful link from the Prep Soil project that can be helpful in terms of what kinds of needs and drivers are we talking about. Financial support to third parties, again, for small actors. Here you see that it's not grants only. The way that financial support to third parties is supposed to be given, but through calls and justified direct support. The maximum amount of money per third party is the same. You see that this is meant to support who this is meant to support, and again, some kinds of activities which you see are similar, if not identical, to what was mentioned in the previous call. And the last call that we have is the joint call that I mentioned, Mission Soil and Climate. Again, you see that one of the expected outcomes is to have enhanced monitoring of soils at sub-national level, so the regions and municipalities included in the consortium. Of course, a clarification in terms of the aim, which is improved soil resilience against extreme weather events, and the adoption, not only the development, the adoption of tailored soil management practices and solutions to improve soil health, promote sustainable land management, and enhance food system resilience. Now, in this case, I won't stay maybe longer here, maybe just to mention that you see some open access and collaborations on some specific particular projects that in this case the project should be in contact with. It says build upon existing knowledge and relevant EU-funded projects, and you can see in the link that I have to the work program the mention of some specific projects or call identifiers. You see a clarification in terms of the territory. It must take place in the territory of at least 3 different regional or local authorities, so minimum criteria, and also to have replicating regional or local authorities from, again, 3 different relevant areas and territories. Now, in this case, again, the multi-actor approach is a mandatory requirement already mentioned in the eligibility conditions and in the scope in the same way and throughout the entire project life cycle. You see that we have descriptions that are identical to what was mentioned in the beginning, so to the introduction to the Mission Soil work program. And of course, it aims to promote the co-creation of solutions relevant to soil health and facilitate faster acceptance and adoption of those innovations. Apart from the calls, I just wanted to quickly mention some relevant data about the participation of Greece in EU Mission Soil. You can see 79 unique participations, 37 programs. This is from 2021 onwards. And I think it's you see that the research and innovation actions, 2 of those that I mentioned today, have the highest percent. And here you can see that 2023, for example, was the let's say highest net EU contribution in terms of Greek participation. I'm ending my presentation with some useful resources and links. Of course, the work program, a relevant document or an official document about good practices for implementing financial support to third parties. We saw that in the 3 calls, there wasn't a clear, let's say, official inclusion of FSTP in the joint call in particular. And then you can see some useful resources we have developed in the context of the NCP for missions. I have here the project website where you can also see events that you could potentially join as well if you want. The virtual campus that I mentioned with different e-learning nuggets, as my colleagues call them, including the financial support to third parties course, which I highly recommend as an introduction. And the last one I have included is a mapping of mission hubs. The reason I'm including that is because the term mission hub, which refers to national structures in all EU member and associated countries, in the case of mission soil, also includes soil labs and lighthouses. I hope and I consider this to be a useful resource, especially and not only for people who are preparing a proposal and who need, for example, to have an updated overview of how many soil labs and lighthouses exist, where those are, as well as their contact details, at least those that are publicly available. And upon contact with us in the NCP for Missions project, if you'd like, personal contacts as well and connections. So that's all for me. Thank you. I hope it was useful.
Thank you. Thank you, Yannis, for connecting the mission soil objectives with the multi-actor approach and for giving us the glimpse of the Greek participation of mission soil, of course. It's a great reminder that stakeholder engagement is central in achieving a real impact on the soil. This is obvious by the calls and by the projects. Now I think we are a little bit ahead of the program, but we can start with questions and answers. Ioannis, I think we have some questions in the Slido.
For Pauline, the first question we have is, from your perspective, which type of actor is most often missing in projects, and why do you think that happens?
Yes, I'm just checking if my colleague Agatha, I see Agatha is already connected, and I think she's very well placed to answer the question on which actors to involve, especially when it comes to agriculture cooperatives and farmers, because she's in DG Agri and she's very knowledgeable on multi-actor approach. Yes, Agatha, I see you there.
Yes. Good morning, everyone. So, okay, I think what I see, especially for DG Agri, is that we still struggle a lot to have farmers. Farmer cooperatives are also an option. They can join as beneficiaries. They can join as well as farmers per se, subcontractor, third parties. There is like all the options are valid, let's say. And we do see that, yeah, we still don't have as much participation as we would like to. Some of the feedback we have gathered is that it's probably difficult to reach to these actors. And surely we have to also think about better way of retribution for their contribution to this kind of project. So yeah, this is what I can say. Then of course, each project has a specific set of actor that is more indicated to include. So this is a bit of a generalization as well.
Okay, thank you very much, Agatha. Ioannis, can I propose, since I understand that these questions are more for Agatha, so since you're presenting next, maybe with your presentation, you can cover these questions, or you can additionally put some elements to answer them. So yeah, okay. So I can introduce Agatha Giulisano. She's a research program officer in the Directorate General of Agriculture and Rural Development in the Research and Innovation Unit. She's very passionate about multi-actor approach, and I think that you can have a valuable information from her. So Agatha, maybe you can share your screen and start your presentation.
So indeed, thanks a lot, Evropi, for this invitation. It is always very nice to speak with NCPs because they are the best placed to make sure that the implementation in proposals is right. And I will try to not repeat what it has already been said, even if I already heard a lot this morning about multi-actor approach. We have been working with multi-actor approach now for more than 10 years. And I think we are still in a learning path. We are learning, of course, and we still have more to learn in how to implement this. The idea behind it is, of course, to have this interactive innovation model and to make outcomes more reliable, demand-driven and relevant to society. And to do this, we really want to invest in this co-creation of results, where a set of different actors that are touched, let's say, by the topic, that are involved to a certain extent in using certain solution, becomes also involved in the creation, the testing, the refining, the adjusting of the proposed solution. And we believe that this is the way, because we believe that when these outcomes are built together, then they are also more easily and faster uptaken by the same users that have contributed to their development. So this is a bit the philosophy behind it. What actors include? I've heard it throughout the morning already sometimes, this list being mentioned, so I will not go through it. But we do have indeed in the requirements, so in the introduction of the work program where the multi-actor approach is explained, we do have a list of different actors to include. And the point that I want to reiterate now is that this list is non-exhaustive. We also state in the same introduction that you need to select a multi-actor consortium where you include all the actors that are relevant to answer a specific question. Sometimes topic drafters also have the time to go and specify, well, not the time, the space, mostly because it's a matter of how much space we have per topic, to specify in the topic which actors are most suited to include in a certain project. Other times they are not. And in a way, this is also okay, because it's up to the project to demonstrate in their proposal which actors are relevant to have in the consortium to answer a certain research question and to co-create a solution for that need. So yeah, it is a list. It is important to start from it, but it is non-exhaustive. And we go from researcher, of course, to Farmers Association, Foresters Association, food and bioeconomy businesses, citizen, government representatives, CAP network that are not listed here, but I feel like they play also a very important role, local communities. So really keep it broad and tailor it to the needs of the proposal. This is my first tip. So which key actors are relevant indeed depends on proposal objective. Another way to look at this is really considering the end users of the project results, but not only. So bring it a step further. Who are the useful intermediaries that can contribute with further expertise and innovative ideas? So if we need to deliver a solution to a farmer, through which other actor are gonna we deliver this solution, and which other actor in between need to be consulted to make this process feasible, because a farmer can be okay adapting a certain solution, and research-wise we can have the solution, but then in the middle, how is this gonna materialize practically, and who are the other people that need to be consulted? Communication and dissemination are also two very important points. So I invite also to think about who are the multipliers on the ground. And one that I mentioned is CAP network, but advisory, companies that offer advising services, these are also a big multipliers in certain realities. And then, of course, each country works differently, we are aware. So also that needs to be a bit tailored, but it's another important actor to think about, who is going to ensure that this research reach the people that need to use, and also the ones outside your own consortia. And another important point is this genuine and sufficient involvement of such actors that should take place all over the whole course of the project. What does this mean? That we are not gonna consult these actors once at the beginning of the project and once at the end of the project, but we should find way, and also maybe think about having someone in the consortium that can have a facilitator role to ensure that there are multiple moments along the course of the project and multiple ways in which the different actors can contribute in co-creating, in discussing, in refining the research question, in testing on the ground what is coming out of a project. Operational group in this sense can play an important role, and their involvement is strongly recommended, even though it is not a requirement. So even here, it is up to the project to recognize and identify if there are operational group that is valuable to involve. That is very much welcome and relevant, but it still depends on project. And keep in mind that multi-actor approach, I know that here sometimes we enter then in confusion for applicants with all different kind of terminology related to co-creation and interactive innovation. But multi-actor approach is not multidisciplinarity, is not a living labs, not a stakeholders board or just a dissemination requirement, even though all these steps are part of it. But it really starts with an adequate mix of relevant actors. And the fact that they are actors and not stakeholders is key here, because it's all about the depth and frequency of the co-creation along the project, what I was trying to mention just before. So a stakeholder, you would have it in a board of stakeholders, you can consult it, you can use to validate something. But here, actors should co-create practical solution. And that's why I invite also to think about some maybe a facilitation figure in a project that can really guide and facilitate the co-creation process. The participation should be the level of participation should not be only on a consultation based, but really interactive. They should be co-responsible of the decisions that are taken in a project, and become in this way co-owners of the project results, not only someone that we are gonna consult or pass a message to at the end of the project. In a nutshell, for what comes to work program 26-27, in an overview, maybe some of these points were already touched upon, but okay, main requirements, you will find them in the introduction of the work programs. There are 2 pages dedicated to this, and there you find the 7 key requirements, which I'm gonna touch upon in a moment. And in terms of number, I think we are still doing very good. 45 topics request multi-actor approach in this work program, which is quite a good share, as you can see. from the graph, and 4 of them are encouraging multi-actor approach. There is still quite a lot that do not have multi-actor approach, and this is also okay, because we recommend multi-actor approach where we feel this can really help us, and it's really needed to co-create solution that are more close and can, through a project, help bridge this research practice gap. But we still find a lot of fundamental research that is still very far and might not need necessarily or stringently to have such an approach. And we also have a project, Premiere, that supports multi-actor approach proposal preparation and has developed a lot of tools, but I will not go into this because we are going to have a presentation just after mine by Premiere itself that can say more about the tools they have available. So I will move now to these 7 key requirements that probably all of you already know, but just to once again elaborate on what we mean with this. We start with, okay, project objectives must be targeting the needs and opportunities of end users of results. So this, I think it's really important to understand that the expectation is that there is either before the proposal phase, in some case, depending on how the topic has been written, or during the proposal, there is going to be a moment in which actors are involved for identification of needs and opportunities. This is what is the expectation on this point. So there is really a involvement with practitioners on the ground to identify and understand and refine the needs and the research question. Project concept and composition of the consortium must reflect a balanced choice of key relevant actors. I think I've spent already enough time on this in the previous slides to explain what we mean by that. Proposal methodology must explain how the project will make use of existing and tacit knowledge by active involvement of all actors. And here we come to which kind of activities are we gonna have in a project? How are we gonna involve the different actors we are bringing in with our multi-actor approach, and make sure that their voice is heard, their knowledge is taken into account, their experience is used as a valuable feedback, guiding the research, guiding the project. 4th point, use methods to facilitate the multi-actor engagement process and maintain engagement. So with a different goal, because this is how are we going to keep the engagement throughout the process, but we still refer basically to the activities and the way in which we are going to ensure that their participation is active throughout the project, the participation of actors. Demonstrate added value. So how does the project complement existing research and best practices? And this is mainly referred to we're not going to reinvent the wheel, and we are not going to redo what other projects have already done. Results must be practical and ready to use, easily understandable and freely accessible. And this is a main goal of the multi-actor approach. I mean, this is kind of the reason why we do this, have really results that are closer to their users. And they must be widely and effectively disseminated. And that's why I reiterated earlier, try to also include actors that can act as multipliers, because that contributes to the dissemination way more than a website will contribute, even though that is also important. But I think we all know that to reach practitioners on the ground, we also need multiplier at the national level. Organization that users trust and that use as a reference to learn and innovate. Then we go to the evaluation. So if these, let's say, are the 7 key requirements you must include in your proposal, how are these going to be evaluated when it comes to proposal evaluation? So multi-actor approach needs to be suitable for the project type, topic, and objectives. So of course, you need to adhere to the 7 key requirements, but these need to be tailored to the objective of the project. This is the first thing that is going to be checked. Hence, conceptualization will vary inevitably between proposal. So we don't have, a fixed list of check that we do, but we really check how the 7 points are implemented in line with the objective of the topic. And this means also that we are going to look for multi-actor approach implementation, not in a specific section, but throughout the way in which the project per se is structured. So both in parts A and B. Now, the overall assessment is placed under excellence. And this is done for a reason, that even though other aspects are relevant to multi-actor approach will be inevitably, we expect at least, inevitably placed under impact and implementation because they refer more to this part, we are going to score it only under excellence to avoid a double penalization of projects. So this doesn't mean that we are not going to look at what is described under impact or implementation, but we are going to place the assessment under excellence. Under excellence, because I think there was a question to this, what we we do assess, let's say, all of it, but what we expect to find mainly is a general description of how well does the project address the multi-actor approach, especially involving the relevant actors and addressing the specific needs in alignment with the requirements, and also how clearly does the project demonstrate that co-creation is integrated throughout the entire project life cycle. So starting from the initial idea until the end of it. So which activities, methods, strategies are going to be put in place to facilitate and maintain the engagement all the relevant actors throughout the project. And this should be answering the question that came before in the chat. Other aspects that are more that we are going to look at or we expect to find under impact and implementation are, for example, under impact, practice abstract, EAP operational groups involvement, or bringing together all essential expertise, but also budget allocation to, for example, ensure active participation and engagement of practitioners, just to mention some points that come now to my mind that you might want to fit under these 2 other parts. And yeah, indeed, end users have to be involved, not as a study object, but to use their practical or local knowledge to develop solution and create co-ownership of results. And another point that I wanted to touch upon and that my colleague Pauline mentioned briefly before is that we still have, it is a very, very low number, but we still have some topics in which multi-actor approach is recommended. And I wanted to spend a few words in explaining what is the difference in evaluation when multi-actor approach is required, which is the majority of the case, by the way, and for these few topics on which multi-actor approach is still recommended. So when multi-actor approach is required, there is a first step as eligibility criteria, which means that in a first screening, there is going to be a check. Multi-actor approach is there. Yes, we keep evaluating. Multi-actor approach is not there. Proposal is out. Because when required, the multi-actor approach is an eligibility criterion. When it's in, the second step in the evaluation will consider, indeed, as I mentioned before, multi-actor approach evaluation, throughout the proposal, mainly scored under excellence to avoid double penalization. And here, if assessed as, if the multi-actor approach implementation is assessed as shortcoming, proposals with an incomplete but still sufficient multi-actor approach can be scored down but can still be funded. But when it is assessed as a significant weakness, So when there is really lacking or misinterpretation of the application of multi-actor approach, this can trigger a below threshold score, and then the proposal is discarded. When multi-actor approach is recommended, there is not a obligation to apply multi-actor approach. It is only for 5 topics in the entire work program 26-27. But pay attention, because here proposal might be rewarded for implementing multi-actor approach, meaning they can get extra point, but they cannot be penalized for not meeting the multi-actor approach specific requirements. The assessment, in case multi-actor approach is present, still will happen under excellence, along with the other aspects under impact and implementation, but it will not be possible to negatively score these aspects. And I think this is important for you to have it clear. I hope I clarified, but of course, if you have other questions, do not hesitate. And then we come to another point that I think it's important to mention, because it is mentioned in the requirement. It's not one of the 7 points that I mentioned before, but is actually part of the wide dissemination, and it is an obligation for multi-actor projects to have practice abstract, which are concise summaries explaining results and practice-oriented solution to practitioners. So this is a specific way that has been, a specific format, let's say, that has been created to ensure that practical knowledge can reach users. We have a dedicated EIP Agri format that needs to be followed, and they must be uploaded to the UCAP network project database. But for wider reach, they can also be uploaded on the EU Farm Book platform. So in case some projects do not know yet, we have launched another project that is setting up this platform, the EU Farm Book, where all practical material stemming out from multi-actor approach project and operational groups acting at national level can be collected. And differently than the UCAP network project database, where it is compulsory to upload your practice abstract, on the EU Farm Book platform, you can also have a page for the project, and you can upload more material. So you can upload video, you can upload podcasts, you can upload presentation. So for some project that's go beyond practice abstract, which is what we always recommend in any case, and that have more material, more practical material to share, it is also a good option to make use of this platform. Some important point about practice abstract. Practice abstract are requested in a variable number, depending on project specificities. And what we have noticed in the past is that probably in a grant proposal, in a proposal preparation phase, this has been translated by many projects as the more we are going to put out, the better is going to look, or the best is going to be for our project. But we really want now to prioritize quality over quantity, and we are going to be checking what is coming out of this practice abstract with way more attention. So I invite you all, when assisting people to in preparation of projects, to really think carefully about the number that you want to propose, but and base it on what is relevant, what are the relevant practical outputs that a project can deliver and can put into practice abstract, to avoid a practice abstract that go out of what is their intended goals. Because practice abstract should be indeed explaining results and practice-oriented solution that practitioners can be interested to read about. They should use an accessible language, so it's not about disseminating scientific results or summary of a paper or of a scientific paper. The information should be selected based on what is relevant for the reader, and the reader, like of course, different target can be the reader, like can be a farmer, a practice abstract can be target to an advisor or an SME or a forester of a stakeholder, but then the information within the practice abstract should be selected keeping in mind who is the final receiver. And it should not lead to have a summary of events organized by the project or a description of the project or, I don't know, research methodologies, goals of the project, because for that, there are different dissemination channels. There are the website, for research methodologies, there are scientific publications, but definitely not practice abstract. And for what is out of agriculture, forestry, rural development, other similarly effective solutions should be sought, because that will not fit into the formatting of, into the topics, let's say, of the EUCAP network project database, but in that case, the EU Farm Book might still be a fitting place. So some practical tips on how to improve practice abstract are: think about having details about the context in which an innovation farming practice has been tested. Think about disseminating recommendation for implementation, adding info or contact to support implementation, somehow some very brief cost-benefit assessment of like, okay, what is the benefit? What can you save? Can you save in money, in water, in resources, in time by implementing this new innovation or these new farming practices? Or do you have to foresee a higher cost, but then, I don't know, you might have another advantage? So think about mentioning these. Of course, I know that the format per se is limiting in terms of space available, but these are the relevant information, and sometimes there is still quite some information, but not the relevant one. And an important tip that I would like to pass is projects should now start thinking about allocating time, and I don't know if resources as well, to validate this practice abstract within the different actors in the consortium. Because if we have a multi-actor consortium at the base of all this process, we assume that within the consortium is already possible to validate with practitioners, with potential users of this information, if the format and the info we are passing in a practice abstract are actually useful for the final targeted receiver. Well, this I already touched upon. IAP operational groups are not required per se, but strongly recommended, as we think that they can bring a very useful contribution to multi-actor approach project. And it is important, especially to build on the outputs of relevant OGs. You can find all the OGs and all their practice abstract on the EUCAP network database. They can be filtered per project, they can be filtered per topic. So it is possible to see what on a relevant topic has been produced and to build synergies with future OGs or other interactive innovation groups. And well, just some indicators, of course: use appropriate terminology, practitioner-driven specific objectives, common dissemination channels, and a balanced choice of actors. More info can be indeed, I think, here, can be found in Premiere. We also had a previous project liaison for which a lot of material is still available that can be useful. And then, well, at this link, you can find lists of all multi-actor project, thematic network, advisory networks, and also an EUCAP network fact sheet on tips and tricks to apply for Horizon Europe calls. And with this, I hope I have covered the question, and happy to answer if there are more questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Agatha, for these practical insights and translated all this concept of multi-actor approach into concrete proposal elements, which is often very challenging. Maybe I can propose to briefly see the questions and see if we can answer briefly in those. I think we have answered the first one, which type of actor is most often missing in projects, and why do you think this happens? I think we answered about this, yeah. So in cluster 6, can agricultural cooperatives participate as partners, as single farmers? What about eligibility criteria? What do you think? How they can participate?
I think like all the options are valid because they can be beneficiaries if they want to really have a role in the project. It fits in some project, in others they prefer maybe to be subcontracted or to join as third parties. Potentially, I mean, in projects that have FSTP, that might also be considered, even though there you need to have a call. So if you have an organization already in mind, I would go rather for subcontracting or third parties or beneficiaries. If they want to join from the beginning and being beneficiaries, as far as they are legal entities, there is no limitation to that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you very much. Yes, it's clear. If a farmer is a legal entity, he or she can participate since it is under a specific the scope of the call. Okay, in the excellence part, what information regarding multi-actor approach should be highlighted? You have referred that in the excellence part is the part that the multi-actor approach should be identified very clearly. So,
exactly.
And in what extent? Because it is now the template is smaller, so one paragraph or one table.
Yeah, it's getting tough to fit everything, I can imagine. So I would say this is a bit of a general statement, because of course evaluation is in the hand of REA. So now I speak on behalf of DG Agri, but then it's REA taking care of the evaluation. But under excellence, the expectation is mostly that there is an explanation, a general explanation of how the project addressed the multi-actor approach. So involving relevant actors, addressing the specific needs, these are the things I would focus on, or I will try to really have it clear in this shorter paragraph, and how what are going to be the methods, the strategy to facilitate the engagement throughout the project. Mm-hmm. So to ensure the real involvement of the actors. So which actors, specific needs that this actor can address or can help address, and how do we ensure that they are involved? And then, of course, there is going to be more, we expect there is going to be more in the implementation and in the impact section. And that will contribute to the evaluation, to the assessment, even if the assessment is done on the excellence. It's just a matter of not creating a double penalization for multi-actor approach in different sections.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you very much. This is very clear. And in terms of excellence, of course, you will look up of other projects and see if, regarding the needs, as you say, you can see in other projects or in other researches that this is a real need. So thank you very much. And then we have a question, I think, for Pauline. So I will go to the next one. In farm to fork proposals, how much input from farm is anticipated and how? Because in these proposals, we focus more on food product. Food product is usually seen and not from the farms. I'm not sure if this is for you, Agatha or Pauline, as a question.
Honestly, I wouldn't be able to answer. I would suggest I'm not sure to which proposal this applicant is referring to, but I would suggest to really have a look at the call for proposal on the funding and tender portal, also because there is a Q&A section, so maybe there are already some clarifications that have been made. And if it's not the case, then you can send a question to you through the NCP or to the Research Inquiry Service, so that the topic drafter can answer, because I wouldn't be able to answer it. I don't really know what it is about.
Okay, so Geliki, can you please send us the call, and we will go back to you with the answer. And I think this one is a general one regarding the partners. As NCP, I have seen this question before. So in the first call, they have some partners, let's say 10 partners in a consortium, and in the second stage call, we want to change the partnership, the consortium, and we want to have 50 to 20 partners. So is this valid? Can in the second stage, can they do that? This change of the consortium? What do you think?
Yeah, it's a good question. I get that. Do you have an idea?
No.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I can. I would need to ask my colleagues in the agency to, and then I get back to you.
Okay, thank you very much. So we will get back to you, Mr.
Evropi,
Mavridis, for
I don't
this
know
question.
if I can be of help at all, but we had like an internal discussion about a very similar question the other day here with NCP colleagues, and we should definitely check that. But it was mentioned that essentially, if on the first stage there is an evaluation of a specific consortium, of course, there could be some changes. I mean, there are always risks and mitigation actions. For example, one partner could not be able to participate in the second stage, and that would be replaced by a new one. But what we were discussing internally, at least, is that, you know, to have double the consortium, double the partners, this is essentially a new proposal, right? It would need to be rewritten, and therefore the evaluation of the first stage it somehow refers to a different kind of proposal and project at the end of the day. Something to check definitely, but I wanted to put this on the table maybe.
I think this can be very easily checked. I mean, if you send a question to the Research and Inquiry Service, it will reach directly REA, and they will be able to answer in the most complete way in a few days. And they are the one that really know all the rules of the grant agreement implementation. So the best place to answer the question.
Okay, thank you both for your input. I will go on as a cluster 6 NCP with this question. And one more question. So when multi-actor approach is part of the eligibility, should the consortium composition reflect partners that naturally belong to the multi-actor value chain? I saw that the next speaker has already answered, but if anyone wants to add something, Pauline or Agatha, I think it is very clear. Do you have anything to add?
Sorry, I was looking for the question to reread it. Should the consortium composition reflect partners that naturally belong to the multi-actor value chain? What do you mean, like, with naturally belong to the multi-actor value chain?
Maybe it's she's referring to the as you said before. It depends on the conceptual note or the initial idea of the project. So since the initial idea has a specific target of the outcomes, maybe this is the naturally belong value chain. So which partners are involved in this idea, something like that?
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, okay. If this is the interpretation, then I personally think so. You know, like should be a bit of a forward-looking of okay, what do we want to produce with this project, and then as an answer, who are the actors that we need to involve to make it possible to actually produce these results. And sometimes a project is gonna go only until a certain stage, so you can also focus to the certain stage that what the project is going to deliver. So like maybe there is a value chain about a certain, I don't know, product now or topic, and we don't necessarily need to go until the end. Other times, yes. So it really depends on the specific topic objectives.
Yeah, okay, thank you very much. So we will look up in the text of its call. This is very important to look up at the text and look up in our idea. And one last one for Agatha, I think. It's a very general one. So if you want to have a sentence of multi-actor approach, what would we look like? Because I'm guessing that there's a lot of information in the previous presentation, so they wanted to sum up in a sentence somehow the multi-actor approach, like from your experience, how we can sum up in one sentence this initiative.
It's a difficult exercise. Cannot even use AI to sum up in a sentence here on the spot. No, I'm joking. But okay, I think that in the ideal world, a multi-actor approach is a project that really managed to bring in a, let's say, repeated way, in a constant way, researchers and other actors around the same table that really enables this conversation and this touching base and this building together.
Okay, thank you very much. I think it
I
is
hope,
I think it is very clear to me. So thank you very much for this. You're better than an AI, I guess.
No, I don't know. Like it could have been put down in better words for sure, but I hope the message it still passes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Evropi.
Thank you, Agatha. So I think we have some time. We are ahead of a little bit, but if Professor Susanne Münchhausen is available, we can start the presentation, or we can...
Yeah, sure. I'm here. No problem.
Hello, Susanne. So to introduce you, Professor Susanne Münchhausen, sorry for the pronunciation, is a professor in the Emberswald, University of Sustainable Development, and she's also a coordinator in Premier project, a very important project dedicated to the multi-actor approach and all the conceptual framework that it needs to be elaborated in these projects, in these calls. So Susanne, you can start. Thank you very much for being here.
Thanks a lot, Evropi, for the introduction. I'm not a professor. I'm just hold the doctor title, but doesn't matter. Yeah, everything else was correct, Evropi. So thanks a lot for inviting me, and thanks a lot for Agatha for your presentation, because it lays the ground for my details. I will go into the practical tools and services for those preparing Horizon multi-actor project proposals. Move on to the next page. Is not moving. Here we go. I will present very briefly the Premiere project that Agatha already mentioned. I will go then into the requirements that she presented and link particular tools and tips to them directly and have a very short conclusion. So Premiere the project The title is Preparing Multi-Actor Projects in a Co-Creative Way, exactly what we are discussing today. It's a Horizon Europe Coordination and Support Action, a CSA, and it's actually itself a multi-actor project. It's a multi-actor project about the multi-actor approach. Coordinated by us, the team of Eberswalde University in northeastern Germany. We started in 23, and now we have another 2 years to go. It's around 5 million, the project. The objectives. The aim of Premiere is to provide support to those preparing multi-actor projects and to contribute to more effective programming and implementation of the multi-actor approach. So Agatha, for example, is also a customer of the project, and we engage very closely with her. What do we have available at the moment? If you go to our website, premieremultiactor.eu, you find the online academy. And in the academy, you find access to 6 webinars about the multi-actor approach. We have cartoons, guidance document library. We have a toolbox, which I will explain a little bit more in detail when I go through my presentations. What is coming? There is a MOOC online course nearly there. The second webinar series is ongoing, and there are more fact sheets, such as about the legal options for practitioner involvement, to come very soon. Additional web material, questions and answers document validated by DG Agri. We have a glossary related to the multi-actor approach. Several videos and podcasts are uploaded to YouTube, and we have a LinkedIn channel you can join immediately. In 26-27, there is the 4th online brokerage event to come after the summer break, and we have several Premiere focus groups. We will publish how-to guides towards the end of the year, and there is a multi-actor series game, which also will be available towards the end of the year. And we do, as today, contributions to several events of others. We've seen this slide already. I just wanted to relate and say this is the overview of the 7 requirements Agatha presented. I just added point 8 and 9. These are the 2 cross-cutting elements. Agatha also referred to them. One is the thing, involvement of user representatives from initiation, from proposal writing until the project end. And this dynamic, time-related requirement is very important when it comes to consortium building. Plus the practice abstracts, which are closely linked to 6 and 7, as Agatha explained. So I will go through the different requirements now and try to link them with very practical tips and tools as presented by the Premiere project. Agatha explained requirement number 1, how to ensure the proposal is driven by end users' needs. So, for example, you can have an early exchange about the motivation and expectation of the proposal writing team. So as a coordinator, you really need to understand and you need to listen well what the practice-oriented partners or the policy-oriented partners in your project actually want out of the project. Premiere tools related to that, we have a multi-actor simulation play workshop, the Mummy workshop. We have various participatory tools, such as mind mapping and other ones, which are in our toolbox. The analysis needs to be based on consultation with other co-creation actors. So the consortium is a co-creation environment, and then you have others which are a little bit more on the rim of the project. You can meet them at conferences, sign up for newsletters, talk to them informally, to understand better what are the key issues relevant for the particular call topic you are aiming for. You can run a survey with friends of your organization, with stakeholders that are closely related in order to understand a little bit better what are their needs on the ground. And this all goes into part B, excellence, as Agatha explained before. Here also you have the references to the needs assessments. They go into excellence. They feed into it. The multi-actor approach is really interwoven in several sections. And yes, you have a short part in excellence about the overall understanding of your particular multi-actor approach. And I put this already in the chat. There is no standard multi-actor approach. It depends on the objectives of the proposal, on the composition of the team, and of the expected outcomes outlined in the call topic text. This is what our toolbox looks like. So if you go on the website, you can say, we are a novice, we are an expert, and then click through 3 questions, and then you get a suggestion for different tools which you might want to use for the assessment of needs in the initial phase of the project or during proposal development. Various participatory tools need to be used, otherwise you can't ensure that all voices in the group are heard. So for online meetings, for proposal development workshops, and so on, they are here available with a particular perspective of proposal development. Multi-actor requirement number 2, cooperation of relevant actors with complementary competences. I mean, this is a big thing, the consortium building. Actors are organizations or persons, following the definition, which are in the consortium or very close to the consortium. As Agatha explained, interdisciplinarity is relevant, as in all multi-actor, as in all Horizon proposals, including SSH requirements. And then plus you have this additional requirement of the involvement of non-academic partners to represent the particular end users that you are addressing in your impact section of your proposal. Multi-actor consortia always consist of a mixed group of actors. So how to do it in practice? Join brokerage events and conference for strategic investment in network building. In the Premiere project, we had last year a test phase for seed funding initiatives for newcomer organizations from operational groups who haven't been involved in Horizon projects yet. And we followed their path and we realized again how big the investment is. Maybe you're not successful in the first phase of involvement, but then you get refreshed next time. So maybe it takes a year or more than a year to really establish a network that is relevant. You need a strategic approach for that. Part A, registration. And this is really important to manifest that practice-oriented partners are part of the consortium. They need to be full partners. They can also be affiliated partners to full partners, such as subordinated chambers of agriculture in certain areas, related associations on the local ground, and so on. But they need to have a legal affiliation, which is documented not only for this proposal, but in general. And then you can have associated partners who do not receive funding from the European Commission, are either based in third countries, in associated countries, or are just participating voluntarily without payment, such as big companies, for example. They don't want to make the commitment to be involved as full partners, but definitely see the benefit of joining the consortium. You also show in part A the multi-actor particular experience by ticking the box in the list of particular competences of the partners. Here you can show that some partners are very experienced in multi-actor, while others are more technical partners and might not have a clue of multi-actor. That's not a problem. And in part B, you highlight the different practice and scientific competences, facilities available in implementation at the very end of the proposal. And you can also highlight specific risks for multi-actor consortia and their co-creation projects, which will also show the evaluators that you have a clue of your particular multi-actor approach. So help could be, for example, make a chart such as this. Who are the main consortium partners? Who are the affiliated and associated partners, if you have any? So this is really the core group, the yellow ones. And then you have this co-creation partners for defined time and phases of the project. They might be contracted, such as FSTP or subcontractors. They come in, but they are not part of the core decision-making process. They don't decide which methodologies are applied. However, as co-creation partners at the outer rim of the project, they play in the multi-actor approach a particular role, but they need to be undermined also by particular methodologies. And then you have the wider circle, the community of users, the wider group of stakeholders which you engage with in workshops, in platforms, and so on and so forth. This is all part of the particular multi-actor approach that you design for your proposal. In Premiere, for example, we have 4 practice partners. One is the Chamber of Commerce and Food in Slovenia. One is a private consultancy business in Romania. Another one is a leader organization who run this call for seed funding, which we did last year. And then, since it's a policy advice, I mentioned this when I highlighted the objectives, we also have a regional ministry as a mixed group of actor contributor in our proposal. So that's the example from the Premiere project. Consortium Builder tool. You can find this on Zenodo. You have access via our website. If you read closely your call topic text, you can add the particular skills that you need into this Excel sheet, which is empty, that you download. And then you get an overview matrix of the organizational mix that you need. You can add roles in a workshop, as highlighted here, and identify gaps, which you will adjust in the next step. So this is a very hands-on tool that you can use for the development of your consortium. Different types, scoring, and the red one is then, oh, oops, here might be partner missing. We should go out and see who we find. And then we have this outer ring, this orange one from My Onion, how to involve stakeholders. You don't have really budget for them, but you, in Premiere, for example, the requirement in the call topic text was, we need to cover all your European areas. So how to deal with those countries that are not represented by core partners. That's why we have this macro-regional approach with biannual meetings of what we call advisory panels who discuss particular issues in the area of the multi-actor approach. And that's how we showed the evaluators how we cover all areas of Europe. And other projects need to cover all sectors or whatever. So you need to be creative when you develop your involvement of stakeholders, your outer rim, your co-creation partners. And that really depends on the definition, how closely they are involved, if they get remuneration or not. Multi-actor requirement number 3, use existing practices and tacit knowledge. So we have, that's another tool which we offer. You can have a look. It's a bit more fun. You can include that in your discussion when you have proposal development ideas for cartoons. And this cartoon and all 4 cartoons tell the story from the info day until the submission of the evaluation. And if you have a look at the 4, you will see this is 4 different types of coordinators, actually, and how do they deal with the practice actors they have on board. And in this one, committed to co-creation, for example, the guys in the gumboot on the bottom of the picture, they say, well, the multi-actor approach is working well here. They have really involved and they did a big effort, although we have very limited time. So really try to raise awareness within consortium partner teams to look for tacit knowledge out there from practitioners and make it part of your multi-actor approach and your harvesting that you are aiming to go for. This is also part of excellence, like pre-studies you organized with your target groups. Show convincing harnessing of regular field days. This is part of excellence and multi-actor design. Your data collection will be part of a task in implementation. Consultation with a specific project advisory panel, as we've got ours on the macro-regional level. This goes into part B, impact, reaching out to the target group. Piloting of traditional and new practices. This is also part of excellence, but will also be in a certain task or work package later on. Everything needs to be interwoven, and the general overview of your multi-actor approach is in excellence, but needs to be consistent. And if there's a weak implementation of the ideas presented in excellent, as done in a technical methodology, when it's about irrigation or wine or olive production, there can be also weaknesses related to that in impact and in implementation. Another example here also from our Premiere project. This is how we showed our work packages are all interconnected. And then we have one task that is about self-reflection among partners biannually. And then we, as coordinators, are open to hear from our practice partners when they say, well, listen, you haven't heard properly. You did not listen when we said this service is not going to work under policymakers, for example, because your wording is not the correct one. So next time you need to get it right. So this self-reflection, criticism, flexibility needs to be also woven into the work plan. Facilitation, number 4, communication and co-creation on equal levels among core partners and with the other co-creation partners. This is about trust building, mutual support as an ongoing effort. You can also this in task because you need a particular partner who's very experienced. This also reflects in the registration of part A, where you show that somebody who has this experienced facilitation capacity is part of the team. You have then tools, activities, co-creation workshops, training, stable schools, living labs, whatever is appropriate in the particular case or required by the core topic text. Co-creation methods among consortium partners need to be addressed in excellence as a methodology. And then also the other part, how to deal with stakeholders. And you've seen the overview table that Agatha presented with the co-creation partners on the left side and the other ones on the right side, which simplified this co-creation process, but made very clear it's about co-creation within the consortium, mixed group of actors, and then engagement with the mixed group out there, stakeholder platforms, and so on and so forth. Beyond state of the art, that's the requirement number 5. You need regular consultation with practice experts from SNEs, advisors, NGOs, and so on. And that also goes in excellent when it's about the presentation of not only scientific references, but also practice-oriented references that give evidence. Yes, you are beyond state of the art when it comes to practice. Number 6, practice-oriented results, material, services, well-prepared and easy to access for target users. So this includes general practice-oriented output, such as handbooks, leaflets, and also practice abstracts, which have this particular requirement also described in the introduction of the work plan. This is time-consuming, and it requires language and communication skills. So that goes back to your requirement of the consortium competition. You need to show in part A who has these competences, who has the capacity, also person months and so on, in the task that can do, for example, for the practice abstracts, for the policy briefs, do a proper review, rewrite them, have didactic methods, have journalist skills, whatever. It is not easy to translate from deliverables into this practice-oriented output. That's why I stated here 6 months is not enough before the end of the project. That would be too late. Show partners' competences, a particular editing task, including peer review, which can be done within the consortium, or you can hire somebody external. This is exactly what the multi-actor proposal needs to show. Again, it's in part B, it's in part, and it is part of Pathway to Impact, because that's how to reach the end users with the results, with the recommendations developed by the projects. An example from the liaison project, Agatha mentioned that. So we had our deliverable, case study results, findings of practice-related findings. And then we translated them into 5 how-to guides, which you find also, connected partnerships, healthy partnerships, impact, ensure impact, and so on. They are very valuable. Download them, they give inspiration also for all ongoing projects. But it was a huge work to translate that into a normal user's, fair visitor, whoever, language, but very much appreciated. And then you need to sell the stuff. So we have a press release, had a press release towards the end of the project, which sells this stuff and goes out to journalists, for example. Training seminars related to these how-to guides which we presented. So the whole package need to be designed in the work plan, in the implementation plan, and then it also materializes in impact. Don't underestimate the effort and the skills needed for that. It was really mind-blowing to do that in the liaison as a self-reflection for myself, at least. These are my last ones: dissemination of results via channels commonly used by target audiences. So here it's about identification of mapping of target groups of the project. Refers a little bit to the first one, where the needs assessment was based. So the needs assessment is similar exercise as we have it for the identification of target groups and where to get there, how to sell it in the end. So again, you need your tools, your methods, which you show in your multi-actor approach in excellence. And it's about implementation, co-design of personas, target profiles, for examples, in order to get the target group description right. And everybody in the project understands, well, who is the target group and what needs do they have, which language do they speak, which questions will they ask. So it's part of the expected outcome, goes into impact. It's really about understanding and establishing work processes for the use of relevant media, personal contact to journalists, well-managed social media, and so on and so forth. As Agatha announced, EU Farmbook can be part of your proposal. You can say you use EU Farmbook, you have automatic translation, you reach EU-wide potential users of your output. And EU Farmbook also presents tips and tricks for the preparation of high-quality practice-oriented material. So this you also find on the website of EU Farmbook. So you see projects also cooperate, such as Premiere and EU Farmbook. Synergies, they also need to be shown by project. If you have your olive grower project, you might cooperate with another one that is on advisory services, for example. So everything needs to be interwoven within the cooperating team, but also think of my jigsaw picture of the work packages. The connection to the outside is also very relevant for multi-actor projects. And impact section present coordination, communication, dissemination, and exploitation strategy. And obviously, multi-actor approach is highly relevant and will be manifested in those strategies, definitely. To conclude, all requirements of the multi-actor approach are mandatory. There's no choice. All need to be addressed. Each multi-actor approach is project-specific. There is no standard multi-actor to go. Ensuring co-creation in the proposal phase among all actors is challenging, no question. It requires excellent facilitation methods and tools. And multi-actor projects are not suitable for all research and innovation objectives and concepts. Be honest to yourself or to your colleagues. You like the call, you think it fits perfectly for what you are aiming for, but if it is pure research that needs proper data collection in the laboratory, the multi-actor approach that needs to involve real-life people from outside the field, it is not the best way to go. And also the other way around. Not all actors will be satisfied and happy when working under the multi-actor approach. So some researchers should rather stay away and say, I need another approach. Be honest, it is not for everybody. And with that, I leave you with the last slides. Follow our Premiere engagement strategy. We just finalized the 26th one. 27 is coming up. We are on social media. You can contact us on email, and these are our links. Thanks a lot, Evropi.
Thank you very much, Susanne, for sharing these hands-on tools and experiences. It's extremely valuable for applicants to see how multi-actor actually works in practice, and the support that you have created already. I think there is a question for you regarding the tools and services in the initial stage of proposal writing. So before, I'm guessing when it says initial, it means before in the first stage of proposal writing, which tools of Premiere is mostly useful? So in which tools they will start to use first, for example?
I think in parallel you use both. You need your participatory tools when you have your online get-together workshops, ensure that all voices are heard. You can use a board, for example, where everybody can document. And in parallel, as the coordinating or the core team needs to start with the consortium builder to get the overview. Otherwise, you involve too many people, for example, from the agricultural area, and later on you realize, oh my gosh, this call is so strong in value chain. We meet much more processing and sales, and we've invited too many primary producers. And then it's very hard to get out of it. So you have to get both things right at the beginning. Have the practice perspective in your core team from the beginning. Don't have to be many voices, maybe 2, and then you have a core team. That's usually how it goes. 4 or 5 organizations. Set up your plan, your consortium builder, read properly your call topic, set up the consortium team. And from the beginning, you need to listen for the voices of the newcomers to come in. So for the Premiere project, for example, we had new partners coming in, I don't know, 2 months before submission, and they brought in another perspective, which we appreciated, but we rewrote many things because of the new perspectives coming in. So you also need to be flexible, and it's not a top-down thing. And so flexibility is important. And I think these 2 tools, participatory tools from the beginning, plus the consortium builder to help you organize your strategic development of the consortium and the plan, is crucial.
Thank you very much. Very nice sum up. Okay, do we have any other questions so far? Because we are going to have a break now. I think there's a question. I think there's a question for Agatha or for Pauline. One last one regarding. Okay, so the question is, if there is no reference in a multi-actor approach call, can it be an additional criterion of scoring in case there are 2 proposals with equal scoring? I think
I can answer this question.
Yeah, please go on.
I would wish we had a fair evaluation. At the moment, it is not. No, at the end, not. But I just discussed with a colleague yesterday who I met in Barcelona, because I'm here for a project meeting. And he said this criterion of gender balance in the list of people registered in Part A is not a meaningful proposal, and it would be much more meaningful if we had a live presentation of the coordinator and the practice partner of these multi-actor projects, for example. That would be much more meaningful, but it is not so easy to change evaluation
sorry,
processes.
Susanna, if I interrupt.
Yes, please, you
It's
jump in.
it's not a matter of fair or not fair. At the moment, multi-actor approach, if not required by the topic, is not considered as an additional criteria. So gender balance is considered as an additional criteria, so that eventually would play a role. These are just the rules, and that's it. And at least for what are the rules at the moment. When recommended, it can be scored positively. So it can be an extra score, but still within the evaluation of the single proposal. So not when it comes afterwards to compare 2 proposals that have the same score, let's say. So this is how it works.
Okay, so just to be clear, for the SSH, it is an additional criterion if it's not in the text of the call, but in the multi-actor approach, if it is not in the call, no?
It's not for the SSH, it's for the gender balance.
Sorry,
yes, because it's very different, because it's also actually, according to the current rule, is the gender balance of project coordinator. So, I mean, they will look within the beneficiaries, and then within the beneficiaries, the reference is the coordinator of the beneficiary, let's say, of the work package leader. And there is what will count as gender balance. Just to be very clear with what the rule asks at the moment.
Okay.
Then could it be improved or not? That's another discussion, but these are the rules.
Yes, because I am guessing that in terms of outcomes, it is important to include all the actors. So in this perspective, maybe multi-actor approach is relevant to all the calls. Anyway, thank you very much. I think we can go to for a short break now, a 10-minute break. And then we will come back for 2 more presentations for today. If the speakers want to leave, they can leave now, and if we will have more questions, we can get back to you. So thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, Evropi, for inviting us, inviting me. And yeah, I will need to leave indeed, but it was a pleasure. If you have any more questions, in general, if you gather more questions, do not hesitate to pass them on to us. And yeah, I hope this sheds some light in the future improvement of multi-actor approach. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.
Yes, same for me. Don't hesitate to reach out if there are further questions. I will also try to. I've put in the chat the answer regarding the consortium. I hope everyone could see it. But don't hesitate, and I can also transfer the questions to Rhea if they are, you know, on these kind of aspects that we are not necessarily aware of. And thanks a lot for the invitation.
Thank you very much, Pauline. So we will go for a 10-minute break. So we will return in Greek time at 12:50. Okay. I think we are all back, and we can start with 2 more presentations. The first presentation is from Grigoris Chatzikostas. He's a partner of reframe.food, one of the top organizations in Greece in various destinations of Cluster 6. He is a beneficiary of numerous multi-actor approach projects and also projects with FSTP, and advocate supporter of the multi-actor approach concept. I remember, forgive me if I'm wrong, Grigoris, at least from 2015, you were introducing these co-creation projects with all actors in your projects. So I think you're the appropriate person to speak about all the tips and the things that applicants should be careful of the multi-actor approach projects and proposals, of course. So, Grigori, the floor is yours. You can share your screen.
Thank you very much, Evropi. Thank you for the introduction, the kind words. I'm Grigoris Chatzikostas. I work at reframe.food. And Evropi was kind enough to shorten a little bit the experience, but in fact, I have been a food soldier in European projects for the agri-food sector for more than 20 years now. And the purpose of my short presentation today would be to share with you some stories from the battlefield, some stories regarding proposals that have been successful, proposals that have not been successful, and also to give you some ideas about how some of our current projects are going through. So a few words on what we do here at reframe.food, only to link it with the rest of the context of the presentation. So at reframe.food, we work in the triangle among agri-food, technologies, and entrepreneurship with a special passion for startup entrepreneurship. And our job, although we work in research projects heavily, as it was also mentioned in the beginning in the destinations, our role in the projects is not to deliver research per se, but rather to amplify the impact of research and innovation in economy and society. A few words of what we are doing. We are making sure that the results of the projects are properly communicated. We make sure that the results of the project make their best to reach the market. It's the methodology that we call from lab to invoice. We want to test them with real users. We take the opportunity of the FSTP to provide funding for grassroots initiatives, either coming from startups or from groups of farmers. For this purpose, we have a dedicated platform called opencalls.fund. We have 3 open calls currently, ranging from bioeconomy for the farming sector up to alternative proteins. I invite you to have a look and possibly apply either as a beneficiary or evaluator. But we also work in the acceleration and the capacity building. As you can imagine, all these topics are quite relevant with the multi-actor approach. I will go directly to the topic and let you know a little bit how we approach it. First, let's see how we approach the multi-actor approach when we are preparing proposals. What seems to be working and what seems not to be working. So, I will repeat what was expressed from one of the previous speakers very widely. It's not about quantity. It's mostly about complementarity. Yes, we need scientists. Yes, we need practitioners. Practitioners can be farming if the project is more oriented into the primary sector, but they can also be food producers, or they can be producers of other points in the value chain. Of course, we need people that are able to bring the idea, the final results of the project to the market. And we certainly need policymakers to influence the way things are going to be done in the future. In this assignment, we need to make sure that all partners have an active, clear, distinctive role. We have seen proposals failing because they are too much heavy on the academic side. It's much easier to bring all the usual suspects of the universities and create a big consortium, but you really need to make the farmers be present as well. You need to really make the policymakers be present as well. Also, we have seen failures related to stakeholders that have no real role, that they're just there for the name dropping. We call them token stakeholders. Missing end users for the results is also one of the common mistakes that we have seen in the proposals. And also, one issue that we face very often is related to low diversity when having end users which are exactly the same. In an ideal world, the multi-actor approach should engage end users from different points of the value chain in order to make sure that all voices are heard. With respect to partnership, the most amusing misconception comes from very often when we are in contact with coordinators who ask us, can you introduce me one partner to do multi-actor approach? You understand that this is fundamentally wrong because this is exactly against the very nature of multi-actor approach, which is about building networks that cover the entire range of stakeholders rather than assigning the job of multi-actor approach to a single partner. Which takes me to the methodology. The whole idea here is to create solutions with the user and not for the users. This means that we have to start with the real needs, but also to build on existing knowledge, document it or even tacit, which is even more important, and practices that exist out there in the field. This will allow us to co-design, co-test, and improve in the course of our methodology. And trying to think which kind of actors, but also which kind of tools and practices add value beyond existing projects. Common misconceptions. Some people think that just by organizing some workshops toward the end of the project where they present the results, this can tick the box of multi-actor approach. Or that multi-actor approach is a job for the dissemination. Let's make a nice leaflets and nice videos and this is enough. Also, the worst thing is to invite end users only to listen to us. Ideally, we invite end users to learn from them, to understand their needs, to understand their capabilities, to understand the level of maturity that the solutions can need to reach in order to be useful for them. So feedback is the most important aspect of the multi-actor approach. These feedback loops, in the United States, they call it Lean startup approach where they have constant feedback loops. In Europe, we want to be more inclusive. We call it multi-actor approach, but essentially it's more or less the same thing. We are looking for channels of constant feedback. Going now to the roles of stakeholders. The whole idea here is that they have active involvement throughout the entire project, meaning we need them in the design phase, we need them in the implementation phase, and we need them also to validate the results. This practically means that we need to make sure that they have adequate resources and adequate role in every work package and task that involve all those upfront. And also that we do the effort, we spare the effort to involve them and engage them continuously. And in real life, this might be challenging. It's very difficult to engage farmers in the time of the harvesting season. It's very difficult to engage food producers and food manufacturers, particularly if there are small companies, in the time before Christmas when they have the biggest cycle of sales. So we have to take all these aspects and the seasonality of their work into account when we're preparing activities about them. Advisory boards are very useful. They can really bring fresh ideas and different perspectives within a project, but they are not one solution for every problem. If they are not sufficient to give active and credible role to the stakeholders. Likewise, if you have farmers in the project, but they have no decision-making power, they are not able to follow the decision-making process of the project, and they are not able to steer the results that are produced, then the assignment is incomplete. Also, a mistake is to engage people from the start, but then be so jargon-heavy, so complicated, so difficult for them, so they are abandoning by themselves and they become silent partners. This is also something that one needs to take into account. And last but not least, in the proposal preparation phase, a very important thing that evaluators look for is the ownership of results. We will use the results, we will maintain the results, how you will, when some users are participating in the development of a result, of a solution, what will be the co-ownership with them? What will be the rights to use the solution further? Very often we come across complaints from end users that they feel that they have been participating, providing feedback, providing their field for validation, and then at the end of the day, they need to pay a license fee like everybody else. These are things that need to be tackled, ideally also during the preparation stage, so that the evaluators see that there is a concrete plan for these activities. Obviously, these are all part of the exploitation plan. And even if we're dealing with a RIA project, which is more focused on research, omitting an exploitation plan is a mistake that normally doesn't pay off. Likewise, it's very difficult for evaluators to accept projects that they do not produce outputs that are usable in practice. Very complicated methodologies or stuff like that normally wouldn't work. Likewise, theoretical results that the practitioners struggle to understand even what they mean are not a good path for exploitation and are not a good path for a genuine multi-actor approach. Let's see now what happens in real life when the projects are under implementation. I will start with a project from Cluster 6, from communities, called Futural. The main role of Futural is to create smart solutions that will improve quality of life in rural areas. So, already from the design phase, we did a few things while we were preparing the proposal. First of all, we formed some core multi-actor platform groups, but we did not limit them. We have foreseen a process under which the challenges would be fine-tuned and identified in detail by them during the beginning of the process. But we have already established, let's call it a stakeholder typology as a reference. Which people were aiming to involve, how, when, with what means, with what motivation, and so on. We even identified the concrete messages that were going to promote the activities to them. Then we were very careful to build both on diversity, but also to reflect what happens in real rural Europe. Sometimes in our offices, it's very easy to imagine things that do not exist in reality. Also, sometimes it's a very common misconception to take for granted that what exists in Greece or what exists in Italy or what exists in Belgium exists all over Europe. No. One of the most charming parts of the work in rural areas is that they are so diverse. Rural Greece is very different from rural Lithuania. And in projects, you need to take all those into account. Also, while a European project has the benefit of creating critical mass, of creating tools that can be applied by everyone, you need to work locally. You need to work locally to activate the actors, to work together with them for co-creation and capacity building workshops, but also to establish a framework that you monitor the activities at the local level in terms of KPIs and so on. For this purpose, we were ready to spare the resources to translate all the material of the project in all the local languages of the project. And we made sure that we even subtitle lots of the activities so that the exchange of knowledge and the exchange of information can happen seamlessly. Also, we took advantage of existing European networks. We luckily tapped into the EU REF events where the broader communities related to rural innovation are brought together. We built synergies with other EU projects, and we networked actively way beyond the consortium with actors and players that could have interest in multiplying our results. How does it look over time? We started our first phase, which is called Initiate and Prototype, the first year of the project. The first year of the project was, let's say, to know what exists in the field. We set up the multi-actor platforms, we engaged stakeholders, we talked to them, we listened to them, we understood their problems. And this is quite important because by distilling the needs and the requirements from them, we prepared the material for the open call, because this proposal is also one that included FSTP. We prepared this open call, we created a number of workshops, we tapped into the EU REF events, and we promoted heavily our activities related to the open call. Then, this happened in the testing phase, and then we had the piloting phase where we already have our open call projects at hand. We have done the contracts with them, we have agreed how to proceed with them, and we are now working together with them in the business model. The last period of the project, which has not happened yet, is related to the evaluation of results, to the evaluation of the experiences, to the key takeaways for learning, but also to see what didn't work and why it didn't work so that the next project will benefit from this situation. Here you can see very briefly how the capacity building activities and the co-ideation and the communication with the users was connected with the various EU REF events. We took really good advantage of them because we are taking the opportunity where actors outside of our consortium gather and discuss to expose our work, to expose our results, but also our challenges and our issues to them, and get valuable feedback that allows us then to go back in our teams and to work towards better solutions. Here you can see a little bit of what we did with respect to the geographical spread. So we had smart solutions in various areas, in Greece, in Spain, Belgium, Austria, Romania, and Lithuania. This allowed us also to cover a quite different range of typologies of activities. And we also included a serious aspect of social innovations together with the technological innovations. Therefore, the multi-actor approach became even more necessary in order to understand the social drivers and the allow me to use the term, the social currents that exist in every rural setup. Now, a very quick stop to Carbonica. Despite the fact that Carbonica is a project funded by the Widening, by the Excellence Hubs initiative, it is very much oriented towards the farming sector. It's about carbon farming. And there as coordinators, we also had some additional very interesting learning takeaways that I would like to share with you. Here we're covering 3 multi-actor platforms, one in Cyprus, one in Greece, and one in North Macedonia. We have the quadruple helix as the core of our multi-actor approach, trying to bring in actors from research, from entrepreneurial community, from from the society, but also from the government. It's very important to have this in the composition of the consortium. Luckily, in this particular project, that was a mandatory, so we had to do it seriously upfront, but also during the implementation of the project. And the main important thing that we learned is that the initial structure is not enough. You need to constantly work to maintain the multi-actor approach as the heart of your project. Okay, I don't want to bother you too much with the details of the project, but we had the whole purpose of the project is to understand the needs of the sector regarding carbon farming and to prepare a strategic research agenda for the 3 areas that will engage the majority of the right players, starting from startups and farmers and going all up to the ministries, which are, by the way, partners in the project. One thing we have learned as coordinators, and I consider it very important, maybe this is the biggest challenge if you want to implement a real multi-actor approach project. Some of us are very well versed with the necessary activities and the obligations of European projects, but keep in mind that if you need real multi-actor approach, you need real farmers, real policymakers, real technology developers. And all these people, they like to implement European projects, they like to learn from each other, but they cannot make European projects their top priority. This means that as a coordinator, you really need to work hard not to leave anyone behind. You need to create support mechanisms. You need to sometimes, allow me the term, babysit the actors, babysit the beneficiaries in order to understand the necessities of the reporting, in order to understand the necessities of participating into meetings. Sometimes you need to do it in another language other than the English language, but it's necessary because otherwise you run under the risk that somebody loses connection and loses interest from the project. The essence of the quadruple helix model and the essence of multi-actor approach is not to leave anyone behind during the 4 years of the implementation of the project. Also, if you want to engage farmers, as you might imagine, farmers are very difficult to be convinced by people like me who speak in events or and present PowerPoint. Farmers need to see and believe in their natural environment, which is the farm. So we did huge amount of farm visits. We did huge amount of on-field demonstrations in order to create the communication channels with farmers that believe other farmers or believe people who can make their hands dirty in the soil and demonstrate the results of the project in the soil. A few things regarding the multi-actor approach after the end of the project. What we like to do at reframe.food, and I believe it's a good practice, is that we like to build ecosystems and no consortia. This means that we don't look for the one particular project, but we like to engage organizations that can act as multipliers for the next and the next and the next activity. This means that we build long-term collaborations based on trust, based on common understanding, and based on alignment of agendas. This, in turn, will maximize the possibility to have a real uptake of the results, to have a real work that benefits and improves the life of the people, the life of the stakeholders. For this purpose, we make sure that Sustainability models are there, business models are there, the policy actors are engaged, and the governance framework are set up and they are clear and understandable and acceptable by everyone. This means also that we need to keep the momentum alive. That's why we always provide 3 to 5 years more after the end of the project to maintain the main channels of communication. And we don't want type of projects that when they finish, the ecosystem vanishes. That explains why very often we have projects which are capitalizing upon the results of previous ones. And I would like to close my presentation with my favorite allegory. When we're building an ecosystem, in fact, we're building a coral reef. We're building an environment where people like to come because they know that regardless of the internal competition and regardless that agendas might not always be aligned, they're always better off comparing to what they will be in isolation. So when we're building projects, in reality, we're building a big, thriving ecosystem that can renew itself constantly and continue to grow and thrive. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Grigori. You have some questions from Slido. I think we can start with them. So, what do you think? What do you see as the biggest challenge in turning collaboration into true creation?
That's a difficult one, very good question. I would say motives. Motivated people turn an opportunistic collaboration, such as the European project, into a concrete business model. I can give you a few examples. Very often we introduce companies in consortia that they don't know each other, but after that they collaborate and one is selling the products of the other in their own market and they create meaningful, long-lasting collaboration. I can think of quite a few of them. I believe, I'm not romantic. I would not say that the need to create a greener future for all children is the main motive. The main motive of people is to continue doing business, and if they find ways to continue doing business after the end of the project, that is what makes solid creation.
Thank you very much. I think another difficult one. If you could involve the one non-traditional actor in the next proposal, what this actor could be? So,
okay, I will dare a similar activity. We have seen in a previous project that there was an excellent acceptance of a dissemination material that was related to a comic book. We have, at the end of the project, we have developed a comic book, and it was the impact was huge. Even the European Commission advertised it. So I would say I would involve a comic artist.
very nice example. And in your experience in the proposal stage, what the reviews look very close for the multi-actor approach? I think that you have an experience to answer that.
Yes, I think that they are looking at two things. First of all, the consortium, and second, the methodology. The consortium needs to reflect genuinely the multi-actor approach. It's not a good idea to put a farmer and give them 15,000 euros budget. They will not be able in 4 years to deliver something meaningful with 15,000 euros budget. And the second is the methodology. Are the end users involved in all the stages of the project? In the design, in the implementation, in the validation, in the promotion. If these two conditions are met, I think that the multi-actor approach is normally not a problem.
Okay, thank you for this. And I think a relevant one is that do you need one actor type for each region to cover? I'm guessing that if you have like 4 regions, you should have a multi-actor approach in each region, and in each region you should have like 4 or 5 different actors, and how this can be aligned to a medium number of a consortium. This is
That's a good question. That's a good question. It depends, I would say. For example, in Excellence Hub project, they make it a necessary condition. It's an eligibility criteria that each country that participates has the 4 types of factors that they foresee. In the Cluster 6 projects, it's not explicitly written as such. When you have a medium-sized consortium, one trick of the trade is that you try to have different type of end users in different countries. So at the end, the entire project as a whole represents the value chain. For example, we might have a farmer in Greece, a processor in Italy, and a wholesaler in Belgium. And this way, we're covering the entire value chain without needing to have 3 different partners in each country.
Okay, nice. Okay, and I think this is something that popped up in my mind also when you were referring to the stakeholder typology, which is very important starting point for a regional level. If this stakeholder typology needs to be updated during the after the initial stage of the prototype. So is it like a stakeholder plan, like updated during the project or something specific?
I would answer in a generic manner, but I think it answers this question as well. Unfortunately, or fortunately, the lifetime of European projects is very long. In Cluster 6, normally we have projects that are 4 years, and if you add the 1 year prior to the project that it's submission, evaluation, grant agreement preparation, and so on, we're talking about something that we write today to be implemented in 5 years from now. If I go back and see how different our world was 5 years ago, you can imagine that in 5 years from now, it will be very much different as well. So the best way is to incorporate mechanisms in your project that constantly rearrange everything and constantly evaluate that what we were considering as certain did not change in the meantime.
Yeah, this is... I'm guessing this is a very difficult issue to tackle from the European Commission, but this is how the world works. And is there any fundamental difference in proposal writing from multi-actor approach to quadruple helix? It is nice that you have the example of Carbonica in your presentation. So how you approach this in a different way, the quadruple helix and the multi-actor approach?
Okay, the quadruple helix is a subset of the multi-actor approach. The quadruple helix refers to the type of stakeholders that you need to engage, while the multi-actor approach refers to a methodology that also includes the type of stakeholders that you need to engage, but also how to engage them, how to develop the constant interaction mechanisms with them. So I would say that the multi-actor approach, the quadruple helix is always a good starting point. When we need to say that we're covering the stakeholders, we need researchers, we need government, we need industry, and we need the civil society. That's the civil society might be consumers in the case of food products. Civil society might be environmental NGOs that care about the protection of the forest in some other projects and so on and so forth. But this is the start. This is what type of actors we're looking to engage. This is not enough. Multi-actor approach is a broader concept that is how do we engage them in all the different steps of our project.
Okay, thank you very much. This was very clear. I think we don't have any other questions. So thank you very much, Grigori, for this valuable presentation and your valuable experience. Thank you for being here. If you have any other questions, he will be there for a little bit, so you can write down your question. And in the meantime, I can share my screen and present you a little bit of what we are doing as NCPs. Just a minute. Okay. Okay, so I think that you're super tired until now because we have a lot of information, valuable information about multi-actor approach. Although it is very important for you to have some information about our team, the National Contact Point team in Praxi Network, and how you can take advantage of our services and supportive tools. So as I said in the beginning, the Praxi Network is a special unit of Foundation for Research and Technology with more than 30 years of supporting business, universities and research centers. Our mission is to connect the research and industry, fostering innovation and entrepreneurship, and supporting international collaboration. This webinar was supported of two from the three pillars, the three main teams of our office, the Enterprise Europe Network and the National Contact Point. We also have a technology transfer office and team. We are a passionate team of 11 NCPs, dedicated NCPs, to support you in any way during your proposal or during the implementation of a project. Each one of them, of us, is dedicated NCP in different parts of Horizon Europe. So please go to our website. We are in 5 different cities, and each one of them have different parts of Horizon Europe parts that they can help you with. Beyond, if you have been in contact with the NCPs before, we are working as a team beyond asking administrative questions only. We are trying to give you as much help as we can give to enhance the quality and number of proposals in Greece. So you can imagine that we can, something like connectors, we are dealing of linking the research policy and innovation to lower the barriers of participation in funding, but also to make easier access to opportunities, to funding opportunities. We work also as multipliers. We spread the EU research culture and the best practices, help raise the overall quality of proposals and build stronger research communities. And this way, we try to help the Greek ecosystem to grow, not just technical advisors, but actual enablers of collaboration between all the sectors, and facilitate all the knowledge and innovation flow. Just a brief overview of what our team have done and succeeded in the previous year. We have documented almost 2,000 of different services to the Greek ecosystem. We have participated or organized 35 events, and we offered to the applicants travel grants, actual budget that they can travel and participate in different important events, for example, in brokerage events at TIFO days. And also we offer pre-screening from experts. This is a real service that it is ongoing, so you can go to our website and search for this free service. From experts, our pre-screening for 25 was 37, and from us as NCPs, our free pre-screening was 85 proposals. You can find out after our communication with us which service is mostly valuable and important for you. We start from the pre-proposal phase. We can see for the eligibility check and some strategic advice about your proposal. We actually have given guidance to many proposals in the writing phase. And then in the proposal review, we can help you with that with total confidentiality. Of course, after you take the grant, we can support you in different questions. We work as a first come, first serve basis. You can see that we are a small team, so we advise you to get in touch with us approximately 1 year before your application. I know you're going to laugh now because you are preparing your application in like 3 or 4 months, but this is very important for us to give you as much as we could. So ask us about one-to-one consultations and we can offer you some help. Apart from the NCP work that we are doing, we are dealing with project management. We are participating in actual projects which are NCP networks. These are networks in which only NCPs can participate. So in all parts of Horizon Europe, there are different networks. And in these networks, we are actively, you can see here in the green frame, we are partners, and in the red frame, we are coordinators of these projects. And specifically for Care for Bio, for Cluster 6, we are coordinating Care for Bio. So it is very important for us since our community in Greece is very active in the Cluster 6. What you can gain from these networks? You can see here a web page. It leads to all the material that these networks have from workshops and webinars, tools for training, funding opportunities, travel grants, or matchmaking events that you can participate. And according to the call, you can pick up the appropriate network to communicate and see what they can offer to you. Okay. So thank you very much for being here. Okay, I think I finished my presentation. If you have any other inquiries, we can discuss today, or you can send us a message. I have written already in the chat the email that you can send for the Cluster 6 inquiries, and my colleague Ioannis Andronikidis will write down the mission's email to communicate with him if you have any inquiries for the calls. Thank you very much for being here. I can see that there is no other questions in just a minute to check for the Slido.
Yes,
Okay.
I don't see any questions, Evropi, there.
Okay, so I guess we can close this webinar. Thank you everyone for being here and have a nice day.